We'd like to thank you for liking our Facebook page and subscribing to our YouTube channel. We are working diligently to get up to 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel by the end of the year. So please ask your family members or friends to go out and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. We also need your comments, both positive and negative. We don't always like the negative, but those are the things that help us to get better. We also are looking for different places that you want to hear from. So let us know those businesses that you'd like to have a little more in-depth knowledge of. So now let's head on to the show. Welcome back to RoadRunnerZX. I'm Michael McFarland, your host, and today we have Bill Leigh, the Leigh Farms up in Marshall County. He, his brother, and other family members are up there farming it with both corn and beans. It'll be an interesting conversation talking about the many different aspects of farming, how farming's changed a little bit, and where maybe we see farming going in the future. Bill, it's nice seeing you today.
Good seeing you, Michael.
Thank you for coming into RoadRunnerZX. So I'm just going to start directly into the questions.
Okay.
So which is harder, running a 2,200 acre farm or being a decathlete for U of I?
You know, they're a lot the same. Because a farmer's kind of got to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, and that's what a decathlon, unless you're really good, then you're good at a lot of things. But
okay.
You've got to know how to do a lot of different things. You know, and with farming, I always say the interesting thing is, because with our seasons, you do something so long that you get sick of it, and then you're done with it for a year. Especially when you used to do things like cultivating. You sit on a tractor for hours just going back and forth slowly through the field. And you do that and you're just like, I'm going to go insane. But then the corn gets too big, the beans get too big, you got what you need to get done, and you're done with it for a year. So by the time you get the other year back, you kind of look forward to going back to doing it again. So it's that way with farming. And so, you know, but you have to know how to do a lot of things. If you're not part mechanic, you don't get a lot done. If you're, you know, you've got to be a economics person because you got to understand markets, and because if you have to get assistance for all that, it all costs money, and then, you know, there's none left for you if you give it to somebody else.
Well, I think that'll lead to some interesting questions I'll have for you as we move on.
Okay.
But one of the things that I will ask you is this. So I used to be a distance runner. Now moving in and being an entrepreneur, working with entrepreneurs, the thing I have learned is that my dedication, determination, not looking for an immediate gratification for anything I do, which I think in this day and age is hard for a lot of people.
Yep.
How did your dedication to sports help you to move in to run the family farm?
I think persistence is one of the ways that you have to look at it. And if you get down to it, you got to listen to your coach. And for years, my dad was my coach, or the people you were working with, because you all learn from each other. And there are no easy fixes. You know, everything takes time. Sometimes you wonder, why are we doing this? And there are better ways sometimes you learn with time. At different people's attitudes, you learn different things. But, you know, there's not athletics and farming. There's some, you know, there are correlations there, because without the work you put into it, you don't get the return.
So, okay, if I looked at my information correctly, it looks like you started your family farm in 1829.
That's what my sister says. It's somewhere in there. It goes back. I mean, Illinois was a state in 1818. And when my understanding is, I farm my mom's family farm, and my brother's over where my dad's family farm is, and we kind of farm together. They're about 30 miles apart. But my mom's family farm over by where I live, they moved up there, and they were some of the first settlers in there.
Okay.
And I think they were on the farm for a while. They had to like walk to Springfield to get the claim on it, and somebody had claim jumped them.
Okay.
So there was some interesting shenanigans that happened before they could prove that they were the owners of it.
Okay, so question there is, do you guys have a big giant sign in front of your yard that says Abraham Lincoln pooped here?
No, I have no evidence that. He was in Metamora, I believe, which isn't far away. But interesting along that line, though, is one of my relatives that he was a bachelor great-great-great uncle was on Major Powell. If you're from Bloomington area, you know who John Wesley Powell
Yep.
is. He was on the second expedition down the Grand Canyon.
Okay. Okay.
He was the cook. That was full of geologists and cartologists and photographers. Andy was the cook, but he was there.
Okay. Did my research correctly. You have your sons?
Yes,
Or
I have
son.
two sons. I have a son back farming with me.
Yep.
And my nephew's
Nephew.
back. Yep.
And your brother?
Yep.
Okay. So it's a family business that's been going on for 150 years,
Yep.
per se. How has that changed for your family over that 150 years?
Well, I can't speak for the first 100 because I wasn't around for any of that. But you know, it's. I think the challenge today is, in some ways, is the opportunities for the next generation. And I guess you could look at that as, you know, who wants to come back and play farmer, because it's hard work. It used to be a lot harder work, the manual part of it. My grandfather on the Leigh side had 4 siblings. One went off to be a doctor, and one was his sister still lived and never married and lived in the area, but the other one became a teacher over by Bushnell, Illinois. You know, and so, you know, my dad's the only son on the Leigh side, and you know the opportunities I guess are there, but you know, to go do something else has always happened, and which we're finding more and more today. You have a family farm that's 6, 7 generations going is getting to be a rarity.
So how do you see the general public when they look at a farmer? What do they see? Do they see the old time person riding the tractor out in the field? There's no covering or anything.
I got some of
do you
that
see
too.
something different?
You know, it depends on where you are. It depends on how you present yourself. You know, I like to go out, and with my work through Illinois corn growers, I go to Washington D.C. fairly often. And when you meet, I'd rather, in some ways, have them confuse me for a banker than peg me as a farmer. Because not that it's anything wrong with being a farmer. And there's a lot of respect within the American public for being a farmer because they know we do work hard, and it's not an easy job. Not a lot of people do. You know, we're less than 1% or 1.5% that actually do most of the production farming. But it's going to be people who are multi-generational removed from the farm, because it's not Grandpa used to have the farm. Now we had one 120 years ago within me. I mean, otherwise we've, you know, lived in an urban environment, so we don't relate very well. One of the stories I tell about farming and farmers is when I was running track at Illinois, one of my teammates, we were going to a meet, and it's springtime, and I'm looking out the fields, and I'm talking about farming. And he turned to me, and this guy was like 1B in 4 years at the U of I in electrical engineering. So he's a smart fellow. And he says, "Bill, I'm glad I know you." He says, "I never thought about who grew the crops. I always thought about food came from the grocery store." And how prevalent that attitude is, or that thought, or the lack of awareness of the bigger picture is, I think, very true today. So I think the American public views us individually with a lot of respect and a lot of curiosity, probably, of what we do. Some of the images that they don't understand is a seed corn sign out in the field that gives a given company doesn't mean they control that. That means we're just advertising that we're planting their varieties. So 96% of the farms in Illinois are family farms. But they may be corporations because you do it for tax reasons. And ours is a family farm. And we're not incorporated yet, but maybe someday we will, or become an LLC or something. But a lot of times that is just done for tax or legal reasons to remove risk.
Well, I think that leads to a good question, which is, what do you see the future? Is that going to become like the next big equity thing of trying to buy farmland? I know that stuff I've seen in like states like Nebraska or whatever, that you do see corporations that are not family owned that are just in there for the profit and owning land and whatever. Is that a danger that we may have as we head into the future?
It is an interesting problem. I mean, Illinois is actually one of the largest states in the percentage that is non-farmer owned land. I can't give the exact number, but it is a big percentage that the farmers are renting the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a different context of a lot of things. If you own your ground, it gives you more leeway. When times get tough, if you've got it paid for, you've got some cushion to fall back on and things like that. But getting into farmland today is, U of I just did a study on their farm doc that says that where it used to be you could be farming 3 acres of rented ground 30 years ago, I think it was, or 25 years ago, to subsidize the purchasing of land. Now it's got to have at least 9 acres of everything that you'd make from 900 acres of rented ground to even make just the payments on the land.
Mm-hmm.
So margins have gotten a lot thinner. Land value has gone insane.
Mm-hmm.
As a farmer, unless you are, as I was saying, subsidizing or using other profits from other profit centers to pay for the land, you can't make land work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just every penny that comes out of the piece of land just about has to go to paying interest and principal, and that does not allow you the input costs or the machinery costs or taxes or anything else on it. So it's a strange world right now.
Well, what I would go with, and so some of my knowledge is, I will say 20 years old.
Okay.
Because I used to do commercial lending to farmers.
Okay.
I will tell you my experience was, I'm not going to name the bank, they don't exist anymore, but I was the guy that they went to and said, he'll get it done. And at one point, they'd walked into the farmers and said, pretty much, you've got 90 days, you need to go figure out where you're going to go, but we're not going to fund any of you farmers anymore. And as you well know, farmers have a short memory, and they forgive very easily. And going back out under the same name of the same bank and asking them to do ag lending was not a easy task that was put before me.
No.
And so I remember I started from the standpoint, I'm a city boy. My family worked on farms, but nobody ever owned any land or anything like that. They worked south of Hayworth. I knew nothing. I mean, I knew absolutely nothing. I didn't take an FFA.
Yeah.
I wasn't a part of that in high school or anything, but I knew lending.
Yep.
And I knew people. And so I went out and I went to the grain elevators. I went to any cafe that I could find. And, farmers generally have kind of that look. And you just go in, you start talking to them. Hey, who are you? Da-da-da. And you try and build a rapport. And the death looks I got from people of, hey, you people kicked us out, so we don't want you anymore, whatever. And a couple of them said to me, they said, son, you've never worked in farming, you know nothing about farming, and nobody is ever going to borrow from you. Which to me is just a challenge. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And so I figured out little things of how many seeds are in a bag or whatever. But my number one way that I could get into most farmers to get them to talk to me was to say this. I would say, there's no business that I know of that's harder than your business. They'd be like, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, you have to buy everything at retail and then sell everything at wholesale.
And you don't set the price.
Yeah. And I said, I don't know any other business that has to work that hard. And from there, the ears kind of popped up, and they say, well, let's talk a little bit more.
If you truly believe that and understand that, then you're right, because farmers are price takers, we're not price makers. And like right now, commodity prices are down, but our input costs are almost at a record high.
Yep.
So it is a difficult time right now for the farmer out there, even with the good crops. I mean, quantity has a quality that lets you get away with some things for a while, but this is the second or third year, and they're projecting a couple of more where things are going to be tight.
Well, talking about like land prices, I remember you could pick up land not for the best quality, but $1,700 an acre.
That's been a while ago.
A long time ago, but yeah.
But the attitude that it has nowhere to go but up. is a problem I have with people thinking that. Investors, because there's a people out there investing today.
Yep.
And you want to spend $15,000 an acre.
Yep.
And you want what kind of returns? I mean, stock market is, I mean, not stock market, but bonds has gone to what? Let's say you want 4% returns. That's, that's $600 an acre. Now, first off, you've got to have a lot of money just to buy that. But $600 an acre, if you're grossing as a farmer at, if you're raising 250 bushel corn, which is a really high, it's a big number for a yield. Illinois, okay, let's go. Illinois is supposed to average 220, 212, something like that.
Yep.
USDA projecting. At $4, you're what, $804 or $880? $600 for rent. It gives you $280 to put a crop in.
Yep.
Seed costs over $100. Fertilizer's $140. Fuel, machinery cost is going to be over $100. Now all that stuff adds up. So I'm like, I don't know where these people think that, unless they just think it's going to appreciate enough that in 20 years it's going to be $30,000 an acre, and we'll be able to turn around and we'll recoup our costs. In 1979, we had a neighbor pass away, and I bought my first piece of ground, 60 acres.
Okay.
$3,000 an acre.
Okay.
In 2002, I bought a comparable piece of ground for $3,000 an acre. And in between, that went down to probably $1,700 an acre, that same ground. And you have to make payments, you've got to figure out a way to keep it what you've got. And now that, so we had what, 23 years? 79, 23 years, right? That's about right now, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's 15,000. Now, I know inflation has done some things, but I tell you what, it's an interesting gamble people are taking.
I'd like to thank our sponsor today, Roadrunner Real Estate. They are a full-service real estate company that does both commercial and residential real estate. They give free consults with their decades of experience. So if you're looking for that personal touch when you're trying to take care of your real estate, call Roadrunner Real Estate today. They'd love to help you.
Well, I will say so my very first business I set up was in 2008.
Okay.
Great year to start a business.
Yeah. It wasn't a .com, was it?
It was not a .com.
Good.
But we set it up my wife and I, so all of our income is in on it, 2008 April. I remember sitting in our living room in September, October of that year, watching everything just dry up. And my wife and I, at the end of the year, had like $950 in the bank. I mean, there was nothing. Right? And grace of God, we made it through.
Yeah.
But the thing, it wasn't my baking background per se that helped me make it through. It was actually my old-time farmers and their philosophies going through the 70s and 80s.
Yep.
And the stuff that they said to me at the time that I didn't understand, but their philosophies that kept themselves afloat, and why they wouldn't give me all of their business and all that. They had it kind of spread around to different banks. And I remember the one farmer I worked with, that they looked at me and I was like, hey, I'm a great guy, I've taken great care of you. If I had all of this, I could, lower your rates, do this. And we'll say times they were lucid and other times they weren't lucid, but it was this point of just complete and total serious, and that they were totally lucid, and they looked at me and they said, I love you, Michael, and I will do business with you as long as you're in banking, but I don't know that your bank's going to want me. And they said, and until, as long as I do banking, I will always have it somewhere, so if something happens, I can make a shift to try and make sure I protect my farm. And when 2008 hit, and I didn't have credit lines, I didn't have a whole bunch of debts or anything like that, but all the banks started shutting everything off, and my investments are gone, and all of this stuff.
Yep.
And my wife and I are shifting dollars back and forth. It was, at that point, we have employees, and we're trying to make it through the entire situation. If we'd been debted up, we wouldn't have made it.
Yep.
But number two was, if we had everything in one bank, we would have been done too. So, like I said, some of the greatest financial lessons, so if you're hearing me here, that you could ever learn is talk to a farmer and see what they go through. Because once again, a farmer's not just a person that puts a seed in the ground and then waits until the end of the year for something to happen. And when you're talking about machinery and working on that stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking the GPS that's up in the sky and trying to balance those computer stuff that's up there. It's not just going down the field and we're driving around, you know,
No.
trying to miss rocks or whatever. Then you're bouncing back, you're coming home at night, and you're like, okay, what do I need to sell now? What do I need to hold on to as a commodity?
No.
What are we planning for the future? So all of that stuff.
I just say, I don't like to go to the gambling. I don't go to the river boats. I don't like that thing because I do that for a living every day. I can make a decision that could be worth, you know, tens of thousands of dollars the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can make a good one. You never remember the good ones as much as you do the ones you sold too early a commodity or too much or not enough, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're sitting there kicking yourself on some of these.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, my grandfather, who was born in 1900, farmed through the Depression,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a generation that if you owed any money, you were basically probably gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very skittish about buying land afterwards. There were those at that time frame that took the risk in the 50s and 60s and took the risk and were aggressive about buying land, and it all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had bought land in, say, 69 or 70, you know, then the Russian grain deal went through and commodities went up, and it took you about 3 years to pay for the land that you'd purchased.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that way today. It's,
Mhm.
you know, I was go back to that first loan, it was a 30-year loan, and it took me almost all of that to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, when interest got to, my first operating loan was 17.5% interest.
Mm-hmm.
And my land loan got up to 13.5. And
Mhm.
that just took every bit of money out of that 60 acres to pay for
Interest.
interest and principal, yeah. Just was not a fun time.
And we're ready to like jump off a mountain because our interest rates got up to like 7%.
Yeah, there's just, yeah, the understanding, or I shouldn't say that properly, but the historic reference, people got very spoiled in the last 30 years with really low interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's, I heard some farmer one, you know, I don't know, probably 08, 09, somewhere saying, you know, corn will never go below $5 again. And I just kind of looked at him, I'm like, you aren't looking at history,
Mm-hmm.
because it all repeats itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, I think we're seeing some of that today and I wouldn't even say it's big gambles, but you have in the South, I've seen some stuff in like maybe Mississippi, Louisiana in there, and they're talking about they're going under because of the constraints in the market. And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna lose my $50,000 tractor, and I'm like, that's an old tractor.
Yeah, that's an old tractor.
If that's what you're using, because like, for the people who are watching, I mean, what's your average price of equipment that you have? So you have your combine.
If you want to talk about new,
Yeah.
a new combine, modern, I mean, you can go up to 1.3 million. Most of them around here will probably go new $700,000.
Mm-hmm.
A new front wheel assist tractor is probably 350, 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
One of those big 4-wheel drives on rubber, if it's on tires, it's going to be, I don't know, I don't buy them, I just look at the prices sometimes. You know, you're dealing with another $600,000. A
Mhm.
planter is $250,000 or more.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all, you know, look what your car has done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the last 10 or 15 years, 20 years, you went from a car that you could buy a really good car for, or a pickup truck for, you know, $20,000,
Mm-hmm.
probably. You go out today and you look at a pickup truck and you'll find most of them over $70,000, $80,000.
I know, but the thing will ask you, like, how are you feeling today versus the one from 15 years ago?
Yeah, my bad, yeah. Well, 15 years ago wasn't so bad. It's the one's a little older than that. But,
Uh-huh.
you know, everything has gone up. But certainly the farm machinery and our inputs are, you know, when your margins are tight, it just takes a lot of acres or you buy used,
Mm-hmm.
which tends to be what I do.
Yeah. Well, so we'll go back just a little bit to the thing about how taking the gambles and all of that. I would tell you, I could work on a farm. I could do probably commodity stuff. The place of looking at the farm ground and wanting the corn to grow or whatever, I'd probably go out there in the middle of the night screaming at it, like, grow faster, because I'm just not that patient. But the one thing, as I have had from my angle of talking to people, is I watch the shows, I don't know if you do, it's called Greed or whatever, out there of, you watch people that just do absolutely stupid, ruin other people's lives for this thing of just trying to make a buck really fast.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I know people like that, yeah.
And, I mean, there are farmers that get themselves caught up in that, that are out there. There are farmers that make mistakes of, they buy too much equipment or whatever, and then there's just not the revenues or the profits there to pay for it. And everybody said over the course of my life, I'm a gambler. I am just a gambler. I will go out and jump in the deep end, and nobody can believe I do this.
Then don't complain.
And
Some of those guys swing big and they hit
Yeah.
home runs. A lot of them swing and strike out.
But what I was going to say is, and I think that this is overall as a farming philosophy, which is this. I bet small to try and win big. But if I won't just be the person that's, I'm like all in with everything that's there. Do you think that that's a little bit of how you look at your farming and philosophy and everything?
That's how I look at mine.
Okay.
I am that way. I did another interview with a gentleman out of St. Louis, and we were talking about conservation practices.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten into all my ground that's going into beans next year. We put on a cover crop, and I plant without disturbing the ground. I'll no-till right into the cover crop when it's still green, and I let the rye grow some more, and then I'll terminate later. And he said, well, what was that moment, that aha moment, said, I'm going to do this? And I said, we don't have those generally in farming because it's too much of a risk. You can go out and change some things, but if there's a return to it, a reward for it. But some of these things you don't know if they're going to work. And I tried a little bit. I said, you can try it a little bit yourself, or you talk to someone you really trust to see if it really works. And we tried a little bit for a couple of years, and then it seemed to be working, and we expanded to, anything we're planting that's going to go into beans next year has got a cover crop on it. It's got cereal rye.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works. It seems to be doing a good job holding the soil, and it holds down weeds and cuts down the expense of tillage and stuff. But we've probably got 40, 45 seasons of growing in your lifetime as a farmer.
Okay.
And you can't lose very many of those from your own mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You have those issues, like you had the 83 drought, you had the 88 drought, you got the 2012 drought.
Mm-hmm.
Those are beyond your control. There's
Mhm.
nothing you can do about it. But those things are within your control. You try to mitigate what's going to happen there. You look at it and what's the risk, what's the reward.
Mm-hmm. So let's go into the technology of the cab comparative. So as I said before, a farmer 100 years ago, or probably we won't even go that, we'll go 70 years ago.
Okay.
And they're bouncing around.
Yep.
On their John Deere down the way and everything.
Not me, but yeah.
Lucky if they have an umbrella that's high technology that's there. Okay.
Yeah, probably, yes.
What's it like in the combine now?
Well, I've got a more comfortable seat than this.
Mm-hmm.
With my combine, I can automatic head control for up and down
Mm-hmm.
when you get going, and I can push this little button, and there's these feeler gauges on the snout that will keep me in the row,
Mm-hmm.
and you just kind of monitor. Now and this is a 13-year-old combine.
Mm-hmm.
The new ones today will go out there and they will change the settings in the combine as you're going to make for the best sample you want.
Yep.
And it's just amazing what computers that are in them.
Mm-hmm.
When we're planting, we have auto guidance, so auto steer. I've got guidance. I can turn around and set the planter down. It'll turn on at the right place
Mm-hmm.
and control the population as we're going, because it's all done electronically. And but the stands are great, and there's return to it. Now you can always spend money. There's a lot of things out there, but is it actually going to give you an economic return?
Uh-huh.
And most of these things do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of things to waste money, but the ones we usually choose to do, I don't know of too many that have ever done that have been, the idea of, boy, I wished I hadn't done that.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have your planner where it is matched up with what your combine's doing when you're hitting the end of season? So, is it like a 16 row or something like that?
No,
as it going?
no, we're planting 24 and harvesting 8.
Okay.
the logistics of trying to handle a bigger combine or more grain is my grain handling. We store all of our grain on the farm.
Okay.
And it's grown over the years, but it was really set up for 180 bushel corn with a 6-row head.
Okay.
And now we're 8-row head, or you could put a 12-row head at 240 bushel corn, and there's a lot more volume to handle, and I can't dry fast enough, and all that good stuff.
Okay, so here's the big question for you.
Okay.
Which is more fun, driving your combine or mowing the grass?
They all have their place. I actually like to mow grass because I find it kind of therapeutic. You can think as you do it, and you go along. Now the combine, you may have your hand off, but you're paying attention to everything. It's just like all this auto steer stuff. What it relieves you from, instead of having to look forward where you're driving, all of a sudden you're looking behind what's happening with the implement, what's going on around you. But I like combining, really, truly. If things are working right, it's the reward for the season, especially if it's a good crop. And you can look over at the yield monitor, which is telling you, what you're yielding per acre, and you're saying, ooh, that looks good, or the disappointment that goes with it sometimes. Like, why is this spot in the field bad? And that's the other thing farmers do. You're looking for ways to improve all the time.
And then the other thing that I don't think most people, you're also paying attention, as that's going in there, it's telling you how much moisture is in that crop.
Correct.
Too. So, at the point of, hey, we need to stop because there's just too much moisture in there, we're costing ourselves more than we need to, or whatever.
That might be with beans. Corn, you can dry it. I mean, we have it's a propane powered dryer that the grain dries through, and you can force air through it, and you'll drive out the water. But there's a point where it gets too moist. You're right.
Yep.
And with beans, though, if you get too wet, then they won't store in the bins, and the elevators will reject them. So there's all those parameters you got to deal with.
Okay. So help explain for a person that has allergies.
Okay.
They see you out in your farm, and you're harvesting everything.
Okay.
And they look out the back of your combine, and it is spitting out dirt and everything that's happening there. What's going on there? Why is that the process now? And how long have we been doing that?
Well, let's go the process before. The process was 80 or 90% of the people in the country lived on the farm, and you harvested it by hand.
Okay.
And then you had to somehow get the stalks in the ground, whether it be plowing or whatever, feed it to livestock. But it was all manual labor. We've been using mechanized harvesting for, 100 years, I suppose. Yeah, basically. I know. Whenever a McCormick Reaper, which was still a lot of hand labor, the new combine state, it's not dirt. What's going out the back of a combine is the stalks of the plant and the leaves and the cobs that are being the grains being separated from. You hope you don't have dirt. Now, does it, can you give you, I don't want to say allergies, but can it, make you sneeze? And yes, because it is small particles, but you can't produce your food without doing that.
So the question would be is, are we picking up any fungus or anything else that's being thrown out the back there? For the most part, as you've said, we're grinding up the plant.
We're
what's
grinding
happening.
up, yeah. It is, you want to leave, if you're doing corn, you want to leave as much of the stalk never going through the combine, because it's just a lot of material you don't want to deal with. So you've got the ears, you've got some leaves, you've got the husks, and you've got the cob in there. So that all kind of gets chewed up and gets separated from the grain and then ejected out the back of the machine. When you're doing soybeans, you've got the stems. If you have bad allergies, you're probably not going to be a farmer anyway. The cabs are pretty clean. Depending on how clean you want them, they've got good filters. You can stay away from that stuff. It is not the days when you had open station or open cab. Like you talked about the tractor. When you'd sit out there, they used to have a 2-row picker mounted on the tractor, and you're sitting there, and all these open gears and chains are surrounding you, and all the dirt and dust is going right into you. And yeah, there's black lung could happen in farming too.
Yes,
when
exactly.
you got that much dirt, and that happened. It used to be that way. But today's farming, we're, I should say, much more sanitary.
Thank you for watching the first part of Bill Leigh and Leigh Farms. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.